Hello and welcome to Kikao, your weekly focus on Africa's agriculture. This week we move from the farm to the market. Just where is the market for agricultural products? And is there any reason, especially for young people, to get involved? Here now is Dr. Canisius Kanangire with his panel of the week discussing the place of the market in Africa's agriculture.
Farmers in most of sub-Saharan African countries, especially smallholder farmers, are doing their best to produce various crops and carry out other farming activities, including livestock keeping, to feed their families and make a living. However, it seems often that they don't get the highest return on their investment in agriculture. Many of them face serious difficulties in accessing market to sell their goods in marketplace. They are constrained by their remote locations, high transportation costs, limited knowledge about which value chains are profitable, lack of business skills, and the bargaining power to interact with other market players on equal terms. Reliable market access boosts the motivation for farmers to increase productivity, increases incomes, and strengthens our food and nutrition security. It can contribute to the reduction of poverty and hunger if appropriate measures are taken to reduce market risks and unequal market powers. So, how do we ensure these farmers get their efforts worth in terms of return on investment? How do we enhance their understanding of the market environment in which they operate? On this episode of Kikao, we will explore these questions to understand how Africa can turn its smallholder farmers into more effective and productive members of the community. I am Dr. Canisius Kanangire, the Executive Director of AATF, and this week I'm speaking to Mrs. Violet Nyando, Membership Services, Policy and Advocacy Manager at Cereal Growers Association, Kenya, and Mrs. Salamatu Garba, Founder and Executive Director of Women Farmers Advancement Network, WOFAN, Nigeria. Salamatu is an award winner, Value for Her by African Green Revolution Forum for Agribusinesses for Africa. You are welcome.
Thank you so much.
Sir. Thank you.
When we talk of smallholder farmer, what are we talking about? Who are we referring to? Is it the size of the land or the volume of operations that they run, which define them as smallholder farmer? Tell me. I think that clarification is needed as we start this conversation.
When you look at what I'll say widely acceptable definition of a smallholder farmer by FAO, by our country ministry that is responsible for agriculture, you look at what World Bank would define who a smallholder farmer is. They look at the land size, and therefore anyone who has less than 2 hectares, 2 hectares will be classified as a smallholder farmer. And that's what I will say widely accepted. But then when you look at country-specific conditions, 2 hectares could be a large-scale farmer in some context. So if you go by that, then that would be a smallholder farmer. Now, I would also want to define a smallholder farmer on the basis of their scale of operation. Anyone who gets into farming mainly for purposes of subsistence, up to 90% of what they do goes into subsistence, I will classify them as smallholder farmers. And then there's another definition. If you have 2 hectares, which in the context we are saying is a smallholder farmer, if you are growing wheat on a 2-hectare piece of land, then you're a smallholder farmer. But if you're growing herbs, which is a high value crop, on 2 hectares, then you can as well be classified as a large-scale farmer. Because now that one is based on the enterprise that you are engaged in. Yeah? And then you come to associations like Cereal Growers Association. We have our own contextualized way of defining who a smallholder farmer is. Because then we are looking at the context of the country and trying to see, being a member-based organization, how do we then appreciate that farmers are not uniform? We have those ones who are medium-scale, large-scale farmers, and smallholder farmers. So that one then becomes a contextualized, institutional-based definition. Then last but not least, look at the agroecological zones, the way they're distributed, including the demographics, especially on population.
How significant are smallholder farmers in food production and attaining food security on the African continent?
A smallholder farmer association, I will call it. So coincidentally, we're discussing that, and we have about 45,000 groups of 30 members each. So I'll be talking in the context of experience of this number of farmers that we'll work with. For the question that you have asked, our classification is like in 3 sections, because even this subsistence we're talking about, they fall within different categories. There are these farmers that farm only to feed their family, and it doesn't take them a circle. And they are people that depend mostly on rain-fed agriculture. They have nothing to back it up, and they get less than 50% expected output from their farmers because they lack extension services and other benefits that they require. And this makes them dependent to live from hand to mouth. But looking at their population in Africa, they make up like 70 to 80%, like everybody has rightly said. So these people are making the food security a problem in Africa, because we're not building the capacity of these people to feed into the system that will make all of us to survive. So I see them as a very relevant segment of agriculture in Africa that we are neglecting. Again, these are people that they are mostly malnourished, and we forget that they need to remain healthy to be able to feed into the system. So these are all the areas that we put together to look at the level of the smallholder farmers. Now, how relevant they are more than 90% relevant, like I have said, to every segment of our economy. And leaving them behind, I think, is a big threat to all of us.
Why aren't they getting the benefit, the return from so many investment in time and in resources that they put in farming?
When it comes to food security, smallholder farmers are very important. Not only are they producing for themselves, but they are also producing a diverse variety of foods to ensure that there is, there is food security, and then there's the nutrition security aspect of it. They play a very significant role of making sure we have a variety of foods on the table, including animal-based products. By the fact that they are small in their operation, and by the fact that they are not well structured in terms of production and marketing, that in itself works against them. And therefore they do not have the economies of scale to have the bargaining power. So what happens? The intermediary players along the value chain then are the ones who get value that was meant for the farmer. So what happens? We leave the farmers in a worse position that we found them. In fact, we confuse them more. You come with a digital technology. The other day I was talking to my mother. She has so many digital technologies on the farm. And guess what? They're more or less doing the same thing. Or maybe you would come with a technology that will give me advice on how to do farming. Another one comes and builds on that to introduce the payment aspect of it. But what happens? I want to come with a technology. You want to come with a technology. So we leave farmers in a confused NGO mentality where we are not progressively building on what is happening on the ground. And that's why they always remain where they are.
Yeah, that is a very critical segment of our our stakeholders, and yet indeed we don't pay much attention and have very dedicated effort to pull them up and have them more productive. Let's take a break. And then when we come, we'll look at all those factors which would probably transform the livelihoods of many smallholder farmers. Welcome back to Kikao session. How do we ensure that we have a reliable market, which is very critical to even bring that motivation to produce more?
Let me take it up from the perspective of what we call contract farming. You know, these farmers, when they grow, they just do that without standard and without knowing the relevant market to take this to. And now we're bringing consciousness of what we call contract farming, like we all know. And there are like 5 types of contract farming. The one that both the buyer and the seller are not at risk and there's nothing to lose, but always the farmer is the one that loses because he will stay with his things because they are not meeting the market needs and so on. They may not buy it, or because he didn't have enough money, he will sell this and a middleman will offtake everything, and that will be the end. And we have the organized system, which I think we should make sure that we're putting a little bit of emphasis before they go into the farming sector. If we have organized off-takers for this, it means that the off-takers, let's take a relationship between the cereal producer, like my sister is doing, and the person that is processing. He needs a particular variety. You bring the input from the beginning of what he needs so that he knows that the production is coming from this end and he knows that the market is there. But where the farmer gets cheated is that he doesn't have the capacity to negotiate with this off-taker. So if he's not smart enough, he will not be able to cost for his production. And there's another one that interventions bring. They give them like loan, and they tell the farmers to return products that probably will not pay back these farmers. So someone needs to be there to let them know. And where they miss it is that at the beginning of harvest, of production, the cost of input and so on, they give to the farmer. But because the farmer is not co-sharing in the cost, they can add like 20% cost of input. And at the time of harvest, probably the farmer will not, what they have agreed the owner is going to buy from him, he may not be making anything out of that. And at the end, he goes back to square zero. So in a nutshell, that consciousness must come so that it's a win-win relationship between the two. The off-takers, the producers, all of them must come to the center.
That is a very important segment that most of the time is like forgotten. How do these associations then come in to at least ensure that the smallholder farmer is protected?
Just not about reliable market. It has to be reliable and profitable. If it is not profitable, the farmer won't make economic sense in what they're doing. That is one. Number two, we need to move from the mentality of helping farmers to increase productivity so that they can sell. I would sum it like this: let's farmer grow for the market, not to market. Let them not grow so that they can go and market, but let them now grow what the market requires. So grow for the market and not to market. There was the issue around the youth. Telling beautiful and nice stories about agriculture will never bring the youth into agriculture. I know there are many discussions around making agriculture sexy. You have to go beyond that. Anything that is sexy and does not bring money or put money in the pocket, trust me, the youth will never get into agriculture. So telling nice stories about agriculture alone is not enough. What can make that youth have money in the pocket? Now, that's where the game changer is.
I think it is very interesting. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we will again look at how do we really create some bridges for the smallholder farmers to reach the end and create some prosperity.
On my dark marks, I've tried everything, but hardly any results. Nivea Luna 630 works from day one. With visible results in just 2 weeks, you'll see the difference or get your money back. The results speak for themselves. Join the 1 million women already using the #1 Lumina 630 from Nivea.
Wing of bat and foot of crow, eagle's egg and seagull's toe, bits of wasp and ooze of fly. Soon I too can reach the sky.
Mom, are you still busy cooking?
You are welcome to come and help me a bit, Freya.
Ah, Mother, there's no helping you anymore, don't you know? Red Bull gives you wings.
Lakini vile hii ekonomi imetufinya, ilinibidi kubadilisha sabuni nikatumia ingine rahisi. Bala, ilibidi nioshe kila kitu mara 2. Sikuwa na otherwise, nikarudia Ariel.
Ariel, usafi bora kwa mwosho mmoja tu.
There's a kind of bank assurance intermediary that really allows you to relax because you know you'll be good. That's Coop Bank Assurance Intermediary for you. Get covered real good through Coop Bank Assurance Intermediary.
It's the opening of the NBA season. How you like me now?
How you like me now?
How you like me now? How you like me now? How you like me now?
I am not going to move an inch until you tell me everything.
It's possible Celestina already knew who you really are and has been plotting something against me. What if Adrian already told Mitch that she's Anna Vita? That could be why.
A lot of things have been happening. I'm just going to forward you the information I've gotten so far.
You know what will happen if those two end up falling in love with each other. They will investigate and they will soon find out.
So your plan is to find out the truth?
And I want to find my father.
Secrets of El Paraíso.
Welcome back to the Kikao session.
Thank you.
How practically do we help the farmer access the market?
When you are looking at access to market, it's not a one solution thing. And there is no single organization that can address that. And I give you practical example from what we do. You have several organizations that are stakeholders along the entire value chain to come to play. So at the time of agreement on this contract farming and linkages to market, you bring in the input dealer, you bring on the insurance person, the legal people are there, because one of the fears of the farmers will be that what if we have an agreement with someone, we produce, and at the end of the day, the person doesn't show up. After all, it has happened with policy things. They ask farmers to grow wheat, maybe. That year, farmers grow wheat with the promise that, okay, it's going to be off-taken, maybe by government. And towards production, you find out that a huge importation is done,
yes.
and the farmers are left without any solution. So what happens in such a situation? This is where organizations like ours, the stakeholders, will bring in our strength. For instance, we come with the input dealers, the extension services are there, the technology people are there, insurance, the backbone. We have to sign the contract agreement at the beginning and at the end before selling of these things. So it's not possible for one person to just slip off. And also you track market so that the farmers are not cheated. For instance, we track market with the media people. The media is our closest friend because on daily basis we bring closer to the populace the cost of input, the cost of what they are selling, so someone will not come and take everything from the farmer. Let us make use of the strength of the stakeholders to transform it into a partnership union. Whatever we call it, maybe partnership coalition or partnership whatever, you in your organization, this is your strength, this is her strength, we bring all of it together. If all of us are saying this together, it links the smallholder farmers collectively, and we're not duplicating effort.
Tell me, how do you look forward and say, I want the smallholder farmer to participate more and be more productive in the agriculture industry to do this way, the trends and then the direction, the roadmap?
There's nothing small that cannot be made beautiful. I mean, you can work with anything small and transform it into something big. So let's start from there. And moving forward, data is becoming a very powerful tool, because data then gives you information. Information then helps people to become wiser in terms of what they make as decisions. And moving forward, that is going to be a very key area. And the government, I think it's high time the government started investing in data, in information. Because when you have information, you can make informed decisions. That's one. We are now in the era where we are talking about sustainable food systems. Therefore, we cannot ignore smallholder farmers. They have to be integrated into the food supply chain through the sustainable food production systems. And we are looking at the trends that are coming up in the world right now. Global warming, we can no longer ignore it. And issues around ethical food that has been produced in an ethical way, because consumers are demanding for ethical food production systems. People are either going organic farming, or people are going a certain way of procuring the kind of food that they feed. So our smallholder farmers will have to also bring themselves to a level where they can also target profitable markets, like those specialty markets where they can sell.
Many players need to come to
board.
This and provide guidance on how to link the smallholder farmers with those, for example, the need of multinational,
and then policies have to work,
which constitute a big market.
So
there is need of a strong political will and leadership to really dedicate effort in strengthening and empowering the smallholder farmer. Do you have that connection with research? Do they come and talk to the members of your association? Do they contribute to producing data which can help you have wiser and up-to-date decisions?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like in my last example that I gave, I showed you how we work with like the NAERLS, which is the Nigeria Agricultural Extension Research Institute. We work with them. ICRISAT is a research organization. So they play a very significant role. But it's not just researching that is the issue. But even knowing where the strength, you asked one question and my colleague said something that I think I should also build on, is that how do you even know how to take the farmers across the entire value chain? Where do you push them? This is where we come in to see that at the point of commencement of an intervention, at the time of baseline, you're supposed to know the classification of these farmers. For instance, we know the farmers through them and with their own understanding, the classification of who are the producers, which people are adding value, We have those that are doing backward integration that only use the residue and now add value to it to feed livestock, and they are preparing to sell because festive period is coming now. The groundnut shell, there are some that concentrate just on that. So at the beginning, you classify this, which is data. So you have your baseline, the midline, and the end line. So when these researchers come, you know which cluster you are giving to them.
We are talking of agriculture and here mainly of smallholder farmers. They constitute 70 to 80% of our population. They are very critical in food production and in ensuring food security. Viewers, thank you very much for your attention. You have seen it is very important to participate, to listen to these conversations. I invite you to the next Kikao, which will be as interesting or more interesting than this one in the agricultural sector. I thank you very much and goodbye for now.
Let's now break down the science terminology of the week, and that's on Science Speak. And for this week, the word we are talking about is hydroponics. Now, this is a type of horticulture where plants are grown without soil by using special water-based solutions containing mineral nutrients. So those plants are not hanging there by some magic. It's called hydroponics. And so there is the verdict. The space exists and the market also exists. There is every reason to get involved in agriculture. My name is Joe Agale. Until next time, thank you for watching Kikao.